Hey, I'm Joel Wanasek. I'm a pro mixer and the co-founder of NailTheMix.com, the coolest place to learn how to mix heavy music in the entire internet. And today we're going to break down something that you've requested a lot, which is the new Metallica. Now we're going to do the song 72 Seasons. I know they've got a couple of music videos out. I just kind of picked this one at random. And I haven't really actually listened to this more than about 5 seconds yet, so this will be kind of fun. We're gonna react to this mix. A lot of you have asked me what I think of it. I've seen a lot of good and bad about it. It's always interesting when a band as iconic and as massive as Metallica comes out with a new song and a new mix, because naturally everybody and their mom is gonna have an opinion on it. So I'm gonna join everybody and their mom and have an opinion on this one here today too. So let's break this mix down and have a good listen. And I just skipped ahead about a minute 16 mark because honestly, there's a long intro. So let's have a listen to this and break this mix down. Here we go. You know, I'm just gonna put this out there, interrupt this and be annoying, but I've been listening to Metallica since like 1989. So good to see that they still got it. Okay, so a couple things stand out to me in this mix right away. First one is that obviously Lars won the argument in terms of mix balancing decisions because this is balanced pretty loud from a drum perspective. Now, that being said, anybody that's listened to Metallica and followed Metallica for a long time is definitely aware that this is a trend that tends to happen with Metallica. I mean, for example, the Black Album, you know, you could argue that the drums are mixed a few dB too loud, but hey, you know, here we are. I feel like they kind of tried to channel the energy and vibe of like, you know, the mix of the Black Album here and like load, reload. So like have a listen to the kick and snare and like the tone. That kick drum, I don't want to say it's the same sample, but it feels like kind of the same sample as you would hear like on the Black Album or Load or Reload or something like that. It's pretty clear that they're kind of trying to go back to that vibe, which I think is pretty cool. It's nice to see them do that. So let's pay attention to our drum sounds because obviously the loudest thing going on right now. Let's see what we got. All right, so obviously the hi-hat, and I mean, I wish it was a little quieter, but it's the loudest thing in this entire mix. Totally jammed, and they're using it to drive energy. I don't necessarily agree with that decision, not that it was my decision to make because I didn't mix it, but I definitely think it could come down a little bit. It's pretty loud. I know I don't usually offer mix crits on this channel, but definitely the hi-hat's too damn loud. Turn the damn thing down. Now that being said, okay, so let's take a look at the kick and snare balance. All right, so the kick drum has this very high click to it and snap, very characteristic of like Metallica. It's super high frequency wise in the click. It's very like a, and then there's a very deep sub that's under there where the kick is actually below the bass, but it's not like super like doom and sustaining. It's more like a doom, you know. So it's got a lot of sub, but it kind of pockets right under the bottom of the bass. So the kick is below the bass. Yeah, that bottom end kind of locks. And that type of kick drum has always given Metallica this really hardcore, like just badass energy to their music. It's signature to Lars, it's a sound, and what can you say? Anytime somebody has like an iconic kind of kick drum or snare drum sound, you know, you got to give them credit because it's a hard thing to do, sonically speaking, especially nowadays, and always definitely respect for like the sonic branding of having that kind of sound. So it's good to see a band come in and use something that, you know, it's kind of signature them. Okay, so let's listen to the bass and the kick drum. So the bass is definitely above the kick. There's a lot of bass in this mix, but it's not super obvious because of the type of attack. There's a lot of like a 1 to 2K kind of bump in it. It's not like a grindy bass, or there's not a lot of distortion. So you can hear the note if you really focus and you're listening on good speakers, but it's kind of just in there to really add a lot of weight. Again, very Metallica, and I think it sounds great. Yeah, you can definitely hear the twang at the top of the bass in there. Listen to it. I like the Black Album kind of toms here. Okay, so the toms aren't super subby, but they have a lot of attack and a lot of reverb on them. Again, it reminds me kind of the Black Album, just like the snare, but the snare is not quite as much of a cannon shot. It's a little bit tougher. There's a nice long reverb and room sound on those toms. And okay, so pay attention to the top end attack of the snare now. You can hear that it's really bright, and I always kind of like the sticky, snappy, transient attack that Metallica has on a lot of its snare drums. Again, you know, when you've got a kick drum that's got like that sticky, like pop to it, you know, like we'll call it like a kiss, you know, the snare's kind of got to be like a slap to the face. And I feel like they did a good job with this in the mix in terms of the snare tones. It's definitely got a lot of attack to it. It's not quite as bright as the kick drum, but it's kind of like in the frequency spectrum, you have the snare attack and the kick attack, like right on top of it. That's balanced pretty nice. Okay, let's take a look at the guitar tones now. The guitar tone to me is very, how do I put it? Like very common Hetfield. You know what I mean? Like he's got this new kind of sound he's been doing for at least a decade and a half, where it's kind of like the top end is very smooth. It's very thick. It kind of sounds very Mesa. I don't know what amp he's using or whatever, but it definitely sounds like a boogie. It's great. It doesn't have a ton of low chug into it, solid mid-range. It's not super bright. Metallica just still bringing the riffage, man. You know, you never get too old to play good riffs, so it's definitely cool to see it. So yeah, the guitar tone sounds great. It's kind of blended in with the bass. It's behind the drums. It's not like a main focus. I wish the guitars were a little bit louder because, you know, I always love James Hetfield on guitar. He just has one of the best right hands ever in the history of the game, but hey. Same thing with Hammett's solo, same kind of tone, very mid-rangey, not very bright. You know, it's actually pretty dry here. There's not a lot of effects. Mix is starting to grow on me. Like I said, I wish the hi-hat was a little bit quieter, but or maybe we had just like a half dB or a dB more guitar and bass. But you know, it's starting to grow on me for sure. Okay, vocally. Vocals are pretty quiet, but you can still hear them. Compare the volume of the hi-hat to the vocal. So like if you ignore the hi-hat, right, being really loud and the cymbals and just kind of bring it down, the vocals are kind of sitting, you know, right up front with the kick and the snare in there. There's plenty of room for them because they've mixed the guitars down a little bit and the bass down in relation to the drums. So there's a lot of room for vocals to sit. You can hear that. Like I said, the only problem is it sounds kind of, I don't want to say misbalanced, but because the hi-hat is so loud, vocals are sitting under the hat, which is kind of an interesting decision. Listen to the effects on Hetfield's voice. You can hear a nice delay in there and a very nice long reverb. Again, I feel like it's kind of like they went for the Black Album almost mix-wise, but they kind of dialed back like the ambiences a little bit, and you know the guitars aren't quite as bright. They're a little bit warmer. It's like somewhere between the Black Album and Load, I would say, in terms of mix-wise and stuff like that. Again, it's cool to see the band kind of go for that direction because, you know, that's to me like always classic Metallica. I mean, again, I did grow up with the band, so you know, I've been listening since I want to say And Justice for All came out was when I heard my first Metallica, but then I immediately went out and got all the tapes and stuff. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty solid, you know, for Metallica. I think it's a good release. You know, the mix is cool. There's, you know, like I said, I have a little bit of a gripe with the hi-hat, but I mean, come on, it doesn't matter what you put out. Somebody's going to have something negative to say. So I'll keep it positive. I think overall, this is pretty cool. It sounds great. I love the tones. I love seeing Metallica do this kind of thing again. So let me know what you think of this down in the comments below. And of course, if there's anything else that you want me to react to, I'm always doing mixing content and stuff like that on my TikTok and Instagram. That's at Joel Wanasek. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, always, of course, you can check out Nail the Mix if you want to learn how to actually mix heavy music. Of course, if you enjoy this, please click the like and notification bell. And of course, subscribe to the channel because I'm always breaking down mixes. So until the next time I see you, thank you so much for watching and happy mixing.